Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brett Hobbs, Austin Price, and Grant Ramey, Tennessee, and ETSU, the home opener, coming up on Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time. It'll be streaming on ESPN Plus and the SEC Network Plus. And, of course, we'll have constant conversation, analysis, reaction, and more leading up to kickoff, during the game, and, of course, after the game right here at Volquest.com. Let's take your questions here as Tennessee heads into week number 2 of the season. We'll start with Turkey Hunter 5000. Why are we so thin at defensive tackle? What happened? I kept hearing we have so many bodies on the defensive line, and now we don't. It don't make sense.
Well, what you lost, Brent, was all your veteran bodies. You still have bodies there. They're just unproven. I mean, Isaiah Campbell, Ethan Utley, Josh Shale. I mean, they're Jamal Wallace. There are bodies there. They're just not proven bodies. So, it's not like you lost a couple of freshmen and you still have your veterans. You lost your veterans for right now. They should be back. How quickly they're back, we'll see.
Yeah, you lost 2 of your top 3. And so that feels different when you lose 2 of your top 3 defensive tackles. And one you lost in the preseason and one you lost on the opening drive of the game. So that's where that is right now. You're right. You still got bodies. They've got to grow up starting this week. And that's the bottom line where you are with the defensive tackles.
JG was great the other night breaking down the game. Will we get more of him, Austin Price?
Yeah, I think we'll get a lot more of JG. Now, how much? I don't know. We'll see. But I think he's open to it. I think he does provide really good perspective. And, I think he does watch the games, which, there's a lot of former players that, watch, sparingly and have opinions. But, it feels like he's watching a lot of Tennessee footage.
Southerner 98. What Heupel has done with Aguilar is remarkable and proves his worth as a great football coach. Still a lot of football left in the season, I know. But where would you place him on the SEC head coaching pecking order? Who would you trade within the conference for him?
All right, Grant Ramey, you're up. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm going to be honest. I scanned this question. I thought he was asking about Aguilar pecking order and how he compares.
No, we did that on Tuesday's show.
Head coaches. Oh, my goodness. Off the top of my head.
Keep in mind, every head coach you mention is going to get you hated on the GQ. So
I wouldn't trade him for nobody. I wouldn't trade him for nobody. I wouldn't trade him for Kalen DeBoer and his $70 million buyout.
The one thing about this is, Joey's played one game.
Right.
It's a small sample size. He played well against Syracuse. Got to keep it going. You got to stack games, though. You got to stack games. I think I told you a couple of weeks ago or even a couple months ago, I think this has the potential to be Heupel's finest hour if he takes the other guy that was just kind of discarded by UCLA for Nico and then goes out and plays well, wins games, and Joey performs at a high level. Has to continue to do that, but obviously off to a good start.
I think the quarterback situation in college football is emerging into a little bit like the NFL situation with quarterbacks, and that it's just I won't say a crapshoot's not the right word, but you just don't know. And look at the number of teams in the NFL, Grant Ramey, who have tried to find the right quarterback for the last 15 years, and they're walking through the wilderness and they can't find the right one. And then you look at the number of teams that got lucky with a guy, right? Let's be honest with you. Did anybody think Patrick Mahomes was going to be what Patrick Mahomes is? And so you got to have a little bit of good fortune. You kind of got to fall into one sometimes with some things. And we'll see if they fell into one with Joey late. I know the overreaction take is simple and easy to make right now. I know there's multiple questions probably in this Mailbag podcast that are like, how much better off are you without Nico being around versus now that you got Joey and Joey's the man? Look, Joey did good things in week 1, and there's a lot of encouragement about how he played. His maturity showed up. He made some plays that you make when you're 23, 24 years old that you probably don't make when you're 18 or 19 years old. We'll see how it all plays out. I think Austin is right, Grant, in that this could be one of those deals at the end of the year where you go, man, Josh Heupel did a heck of a job with his football team. Or it may be at the end of the year where you go, man, they just too much turnover in this year. Just depends on how they play. We've got 4 quarters of a sample size right now, and that's it.
I mean, Tennessee's the perfect example because who knew what Hendon Hooker was when he transferred from Virginia Tech? Who knew what he was when he was trotting on the field to replace Joe? And Joe, what did he do? Turn his ankle or something against Pitt in year one in September. Nico looked like the perfect, quarterback for this system, the mold and all that stuff. And who knows if it would have worked out well if he'd have stuck around or how it would have played out. You just never know. I mean, Hendon Hooker was lightning in a bottle and was absolute magic and turned into a Heisman contender. Should have been invited to the ceremony, all that stuff, the numbers he put up. And then Nico struggled. So you never know. I think are you directing that question at me because I'm a Bears fan?
Nope. I never referenced the Bears. I could have said Mitchell Trubisky. I could have said Caleb Williams. I could have dropped. You're still looking for your first quarterback since Jim McMahon played there in the mid '80s, but I didn't.
I don't think Jim was around long enough to write it down as a franchise
to Rex Grossman, who went to the Super Bowl.
Don't put hate on Eric Kramer's name, folks.
That was one of my favorite. Let's go down memory lane. One of my best Christmases ever. I got an Eric Kramer jersey and a Bears 3/4 zip starter jacket. Remember the big poofy one with the big pocket on the front and all that stuff?
Yeah. The pullover.
Do you have that for Theo now? Did you keep it?
No, he don't care about the Bears. Which is probably wise. He won't grow up and spend multiple mortgage payments on Sunday ticket to watch them lose every Sunday. But I digress.
I will be honest with you. I was the king of in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade era of being a front runner, just picking the team that you liked.
Yep.
Like that was good. So like I was a big Dolphins fan with Dan Marino because they had Duper and Clayton and those guys. And then conveniently in like 85, I suddenly loved the Chicago Bears. So for one Christmas, I got a bunch of Bears gear for Christmas. I then quickly got rid of it. But the 85 Bears were really good. So I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Bears stuff at that point in time.
My dad was in that same boat. He had one of those, Clark Griswold Chicago Bears script across the front hats. And I just saw that hat and I assumed that was the team. And that's how I became a loser. But anyway, back on track.
Hubs had a dog named Buddy and a cat named Ryan when he was
All right, Zjsvols, what ranked team is getting upset this week? I think Illinois is on upset alert. Of course, the Illini are on the road at Duke. And there's not a whole lot of intriguing matchups. You got that one. Of course, You've got Oklahoma and Michigan. A lot of Tennessee fans will be paying attention to Florida and South Florida. It's really about it. Right, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, though I don't think, neither one of those two teams are ranked. That's a pretty good matchup. Anyway, the slate's not that great. The headliner is Michigan, Oklahoma, but of course, that Illinois-Duke game is one worth watching.
The easy answer for me is Florida, since I predict them to lose outright on the Tuesday podcast. So,
yeah, South Florida is like when Peyton went to the Colts. There's the same number of Tennessee fans that are watching South Florida games to see what Alex Golesh is, especially after what they looked like Thursday night on national TV against a team, Boise State, that was ranked and was, projected to be that Group of 5 playoff team.
They're watching South Florida for the absolute opposite reason they're watching UCLA play every Saturday. Is what you're saying.
Right.
I'll tell you one that intrigues me that I think Eric was glossed over is this Arizona State Mississippi State matchup. I'm curious to see how Arizona State handles on the road playing. I mean, their head coach has talked has got a long bus ride into the stadium and, all this other stuff. I'm curious. This is a big opportunity. It's not an end-all be-all, but it's a big opportunity for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State to kind of put a stamp on where they are in year 2. I don't think Arizona State's as good as they were last year, even though they got the quarterback back. I think that one's got some intrigue to it.
They've got
by the way, Illinois, I don't think Illinois is losing at Duke.
They've got staffers or GAs or student helpers, whoever it is, walking around with some cowbells at practice this week. I saw that clip. And
I'll tell you what, man, the cowbells, it's different. It is different. If you've never experienced before, it is. That's the one place that I've been covering a game where you get done covering the game. I think we stayed in maybe Tuscaloosa in 2012, coming back from that game, and you go to bed with your ears ringing, still hearing those cowbells.
Obviously, still don't understand how they're allowed to do that. But
right.
Also, I'm not sure the head coach knows where Starkville is because he was talking about staying in a hotel 2 hours away. It's like, okay.
I don't think it's that far.
We're not on Mars here. I know Starkville's a weird place, but we're not on Mars.
Now, the question is, if they're staying in Tupelo, that's probably an hour 15 to an hour and a half out. If they're staying in Tupelo.
But like there are like, and again, like maybe the hotel they want to stay in is booked up that weekend or whatever. There are other options that could be accommodating to a football team closer.
They want the points game. They want the Marriott points.
Yeah.
They don't stand up.
I mean, you're basically staying in Columbus or Tupelo. That's your two options if you're taking 125 people.
There's good Marriott properties basically right next to the campus. Let's just
they should call you to line that up.
Exactly. Nobody, but I think Mississippi State uses that for home games. I think they stay in a hotel and stay there. It's why a lot of teams stay in Ocala. Now Josh Heupel has ended that run for the Florida trip. They stay off the beaten path a little bit outside of Gainesville, but there are some places. I mean, you can't stay in Auburn. You got to stay in Columbus, Georgia. There are some places that you go to that you can't stay in that town. Now, sometimes you do it by choice, but you're not staying in dead in Starkville, Mississippi, because there's no hope that town is not giving up 120 or 100 hotel rooms to the visiting team. That's going to the fine people of Starkville and the athletic department and the people traveling in. Nobody's staying in Starkville.
That's the beauty of covering college basketball in this league. You can roll up 2 hours before, book the hotel, and you're good right next to the arena.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the old football world. That's why football teams book their travel. Football programs book their travel a year out. That's why every ops guy right now is anger at the SEC for not getting next year's schedule out quicker, because they're ready to start booking next year's travel right now. Because
it's going to be a scramble.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the Tupelo deal is pretty fascinating in the state of Mississippi. There's some people that stay in Tupelo when they play in Oxford. And so that hotel can get booked up pretty quick in Tupelo. It's basically booked every week. So you have a couple of options.
Hotel. Well, you're talking in such a singular form. It's so bad. That hotel.
Well, it is. I mean, basically in the heart of Tupelo. So anyway, we'll continue on. Well, I think that game is an interesting game between Arizona State and Mississippi State.
All I'm saying is sometimes traveling with Austin Price has its perks. Where we stayed in Pittsburgh, top of the line. Phenomenal place, right, AP?
No doubt.
It was great. I also didn't see we went down on like Friday morning. I didn't see Austin until kickoff the next day because he was out playing golf. I went to a baseball game by myself. I had a blast.
If you find a bad place in Pittsburgh to stay, then you've got a bad travel agent. You need to be better than that.
All right, Forever Faithful. When there is a neutral site game, who pays for the venue? The two schools, the two conferences. Also, since we have great blocking tight ends, who were the last two great blocking tight ends on the same team?
Nobody pays for the venue. The venue puts the game on, right? So the Aflac deal, that's all involved. I mean, both of those teams, Syracuse and Tennessee, got over $3 million playing that game on Saturday. So you don't rent out the facility to play a neutral site game. The schools are not paying for that. The people putting on the game are doing that. Like the one in Charlotte is AP, the Duke's preseason classic or whatever. I mean, that's part of that corporate sponsorship. Nobody has to pay for the venue. What was the second question?
Since we have so many great blocking tight ends, who were the last two great blocking tight ends on the same team for Tennessee?
Who was the second tight end when Luke Stocker played? Anybody know? I didn't look that up last night. I should have. I'm gonna go somewhere in that team.
You don't want to go with the Cotton brothers?
No. I will go with Luke Stocker and whoever his complement was.
What about Paul Fortenberry's tight end? Woody. What was his name? Woody Quinn.
The only block Woody Quinn made was at the net on a spike attempt by some volleyball guy.
Was Michael Rivera not with Stalker, or was that a couple years later?
That was a couple years later, I think. It all runs together.
It's because you don't like the tight ends.
BlaytonK. Tennessee's played a lot of younger players, particularly on defense against Syracuse. Some of the Bama coverage guys were complaining that DeBoer playing too many young players on defense in their loss to Florida State. What are your thoughts on that?
Grant, I think it's a youth movement in the college football game. You got to play your youth, because you're not going to be it's not college basketball. You're not going to have a team of 8 veterans and that's your makeup of your team like you can do in basketball with the portal. I think because of the portal, you have to be young in football.
Yeah, and I also think it's when you're comparing programs or how a team's going to game plan or what kind of personnel they're going to use, it's going to be to each their own. It's going to be, those are two completely different situations. Maybe Tennessee feels a lot better about their youth than maybe Alabama does coming out of that Florida State game. I don't get that comparison, but it's to each their own. It's whatever you think you got, and yeah, if you can play them when they're young and have a better chance to hang on to them, then go down that road for sure.
Vol Forever 901. All offseason, we said the UT team would be measured against the Georgia game in terms of their ceiling. Is that still the case after all the injuries on the defensive side of the football?
I don't remember saying that.
Well, I think that's the team
your big three. I mean,
that's the team you're chasing because that's the one you haven't beaten. So yeah, that they're the benchmark, right, Grant? I mean, they're the team that you're still chasing because of the big three, they're the one you haven't beaten. You've beaten Florida twice, you've beaten Alabama twice, and you haven't. I mean, I guess last year that game got into the second half, but a lot of those games against Georgia hadn't been as competitive as you want. So that's the team you're chasing. I don't know if that's the ultimate. I don't think that's the ultimate judgment of this season, but that's the team you're chasing.
No, it's not the judgment, and I don't know if it's the ceiling. I mean, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois at home a year ago and went to the national championship game. And Tennessee can lose to Georgia at home and still be in the playoff contention in October and November. I mean, Tennessee's season is going to come down to those big three games that you're talking about, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. And if you take care of business in the other 9 games, and you could go 1-2 in those 3 games and still be in the playoff conversation. But yes, in terms of just that's what you've been measured against because Georgia has been immune to Tennessee's win streak at Neyland Stadium. I don't know what the number is at this point since the last time Georgia was here, I guess, or who was the last team that wasn't named Georgia that beat Tennessee in Knoxville. It feels like it's been a while. So just the way those games have played out, it makes it, you want to get that one really, really bad because you haven't had that one in a long time. So, but it's not the end of the world if next week doesn't go well for Tennessee.
That would have been Ole Miss in 21, right?
Yeah.
That's right. The mustard bottle game.
Yeah, you lost 2 home games that year to Power 4 opponents.
3. You lost to Pittsburgh, too.
Hey, guys, want to tell you about Home Field Apparel. It's the exclusive apparel sponsor of Volquest.com. Football season is here right now. Tennessee's 1-0, and it just feels like football. It really felt like football last week, but it still feels good, right? It felt like football temperature-wise. If you're heading out to Neyland Stadium this Saturday for the home opener against ETSU, be sure to be decked out in style thanks to our friends at Home Field Apparel. With the Can't Miss Kickoff 2025 campaign, you can get your football boxes, like right here. Football boxes, if you're watching on YouTube, coaches' jackets, bomber jackets, and so much more. These football boxes, never-before-seen items for the University of Tennessee that are not available anywhere else, all right? This doesn't work if you're listening, okay? If you're watching, you can see me kind of fumbling around here. I've got my mic in one hand. Okay, I'm just pulling stuff out right now, okay? So here's a hoodie. Look how beautiful this is. Oh, yeah, so that's the back, okay? This thing's going to keep you warm whenever the temperature drops. Here's the front. Oh, yeah, vintage college design. So that's the hoodie option. Okay, get a load of this. Just bear with me here, guys. Bear with me. Here is a t-shirt option. Orange. It's got all the national championships on it right here. If you're like Auburn, put a few more on here, but at the bottom, it's got all the national championships. Look at football helmets. The material feels amazing. And then this is my favorite. If you watched last week's show, then obviously you know which one I'm about to pull out right here. This black long sleeve tee. You guys know me. You see me. I wear long sleeves all the time on these shows. Look at this vintage back-to-back SEC championship black tee. 97, 98. Look at those old logos right there. Beautiful. All coming in this Home Field Apparel can't miss kickoff box, okay? I have it behind me in my, in the back over here for display because it's that cool. Look, opened up the box, got more stuff in there. It's fantastic stuff. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. Their focus is on creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. You saw it right there. That is vintage college designs. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Check out what they have in the Tennessee selection. Those can't miss kickoff boxes. You just saw mine. Go get one for yourself as well. That's at homefieldapparel.com. Who was on Flip Watch And with the conference, he's got three questions. So who's on flip watch? Anybody else next to could potentially flip to Tennessee?
You have the tight end that's committed to Kentucky from Michigan. Lincoln's his name. He's on flip watch, but he's going to have to visit and stuff first. Tennessee will continue to look at potentially a running back. We'll see if something materializes there. They're going to look for interior defensive linemen. That's something that Tennessee, I know, is scouring, senior film, scouring, potential schools that might have, rough years that, could have a coaching change, those type of things. Just trying to see who might be available, who might be gettable. But that's kind of the spots I'm looking at.
With the conference going to 9 games, will we see less money games moving forward?
Well, you got 9 conference games, and you got to play a Power 4 game. So that's 10 of your 12 right there. So, yes, I would say that eliminates one of those games. Your other 2 are going to be money games at the house. If you're going to continue with this 9 conference games and you have to play a formidable or quality Power 4 opponent, whatever judgment that is, your 2 games left are going to be money games. And they're probably not going to be very good money games at that.
One of the interesting things to me, Hubs, and I know we talked about this a little bit, was the scheduling, the whole 4-5 thing. Who determines who gets 5, who gets 4? Look at, a lot of these non-conference games are set in stone. So, let's say next year Tennessee gets 5 road games, 4 home games. They're already at Georgia Tech. All of a sudden, you're at only at 6 home games. Most schools get a locked-in 7, if not 8 games at the house. All of a sudden, that drastically changes for some schools next year.
Well, it's interesting. We had this, Mike Keith and I had this discussion on Big Orange Rewind in week 1 of that show. There are, I think, 10 SEC schools that are kind of in the same boat Tennessee's in, where you would look at that schedule and you would say, okay, they should get the extra conference home game because they have the Power 4 road game. But there are 10 schools like that, and basically you got 8 spots. So somebody's going to be unhappy unless they're getting out of deals and getting out of games. And maybe some schools get out of games and redo their Power 4 opponent. I think the league should look at the ones that are obvious. Like, you're playing Clemson every year if you're South Carolina. So they should get 4 or 5 based on that being a home game to Clemson or an away game to Clemson, because that one's going to stay the same all the way through.
No doubt.
The same for Florida State, because they play that. Georgia Tech should be the same way. So those should be easier ones to point out and to do. The question is then how many people move stuff around when they learn out of that pool of 10 teams that they go, well, we're not playing for it. Well, I mean, we're not going to play that many road games. We're going to flip. We're going to try to flip our home and home with whoever the Power 4 is, or whatever the case may be. We'll see. There are going to be a lot of AD. There are going to be some ADs mad. A couple ADs are really going to be mad at the results of that thing whenever we learn what that is here in the next month or so.
Who got the better deal with Adidas, Penn State or Tennessee?
We don't have a clue.
Nobody's
seen the deal. And again, all those deals could be done in different ways, Grant. So, I mean, you can look at that, and one school could get more product, and the value of that product means the financial deal is greater, but that's not what they were looking for. They were looking for more cash money, or they were looking for more NIL stuff. You can structure those things in a variety of different ways. Everybody's going to say they got the biggest. I'll be fascinated to see if Penn State releases what their numbers are, because Tennessee, as we know, has got theirs in a foundation in a situation where they're never going to have to release that, much like they did with the pilot deal.
I think what was billed for Tennessee and Adidas was being a marquee program, being one of the biggest college programs that they have under their brand name. So I think there's only so many of those spots available for a brand like that. So you would assume that either Tennessee has the better deal, or it's at least very equal deal. I would imagine that it's hard for me to imagine that Penn State just turned around and got a better deal than Tennessee got 2 weeks ago or whenever that was.
I would agree with that. I mean, they've been negotiating with both schools for a long time. So right. This is not like, okay, Penn State said, all right, what's the Tennessee deal? Well, we got to be better than that, and we'll sign it. I don't think that is the case. And I also don't think Adidas is done.
Right.
I think Adidas season I think they see an open window in the college game, and they are trying to run absolutely wide open through it right now. And LSU is certainly one to watch with Adidas.
It would not be a good start to the relationship to say we're going to make you a flagship program and then bring in a bunch of other schools that get better deals than you. So I would assume they're going to be at the top or along with others at the top of that list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Last question here from ETSUVol, and I think that there's probably a lot of people like this, right? Being both an ETSU and UT grad, whom shall I pull for and what shall I wear to the game?
Tennessee shirt, Bucks hat, and
Lucky underwear.
You cheer for.
I say go all out and
for everybody to stay healthy. You cheer for everybody to stay healthy.
Yeah,
and bring back.
I would root so hard for ETSU to do everything right, and then if you score 2 touchdowns, awesome. You're still going to get ETSU still going to lose by 50. So I would go all out on ETSU. Realistic return dates for Jamal McCoy, Devin Hobbs, and Jaxson Moi. And does Gibson play again this season?
Moi could be as early as next week. We'll see. It feels like the other two are probably, I think, realistic, like full go. Mississippi State, to me, is kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, maybe Devin Hobbs can knock the rust off against UAB. We'll see about Jamal McCoy. Ultimately, they just have to continue to progress, especially McCoy. And then Gibson, I don't know.
Iheartvols to solve the who gets. We were just kind of talking about this a moment ago, and he has a solution for it. To solve who gets the 5 home league games once we go to 9, could the league mandate a neutral site game for each? You've already got the Red River and Cocktail games, Iron Bowl, and Birmingham, UT Vandy, and Nissan, LSU, A&M, and Jerry's World, etc. Seems like simple solutions.
No. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to play I think everybody's over neutral site games. So Vanderbilt's never going to be played in Knoxville. You would play that in Nashville every year. I don't think that's what fans want. I think there are Georgia and Florida fans that would like for that game to get out of Jacksonville. Not just Georgia fans. I think there's some Florida fans, even though that's not a far drive, would like for that game to be at home. I think a lot of people are where Austin Price is with neutral site games, and they've sort of had enough of those things, and then they're not interested in those anymore. So I don't think that's a solution.
Dale, 1972. You have something, Grant?
No, I would just say it's hard to just establish those. Those have been around for a while. A lot of those neutral sites. I guess A&M and LSU is a little bit of a different story. But I mean, you're going to tell Danny White that he's not going to get an extra home game every other year, and he's going to go to Nashville to play Vanderbilt every single year. Like, no, those ADs aren't going to be up for that.
Well, and those facilities aren't always available in the week that you want to in that schedule as well, because if you're playing in an NFL venue, that's also something that you have to deal with.
Dale, 1972. All Vol fans are all over Nico, and I get it, but doesn't Coach Heupel deserve criticism for his poor evaluation and willingness to put so many resources behind that decision?
I mean, yeah, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them right. We talked about the NFL stuff earlier, and nothing, Austin, about Nico's talents, traits suggested that he was going to have the struggles that he's having with execute. That's the hard part of quarterback play. There have been a lot of guys who have had all the tools and it didn't work out for them, but then there's some other guys who don't throw it particularly well, and they're really good players. They're really good college players. So,
how many quarterbacks are on teams across all football? But let's talk specifically NFL, because of their skill set, because of their ability to just throw it and it looks so pretty and everything, but they don't process it super well. Or how many receivers are on an NFL team because they ran 4-3? Now they may run the wrong direction, but they have the traits to that coaches are looking for. That's across all college football, and you're not going to get them all right. I mean, no scouting department, Brant, is going to bat 1,000. Like, you're just hoping to hit on your fair share. That's going back for as long as football's been going. Like, that's not a new thing. So, like, yeah, I mean, when Nico flashed, he flashed hard. When Nico didn't flash, it was you could tell he's a kid that's not played very much football. So we'll see if he continues to improve out there. That QB guru, Deshaun Foster.
Well, I mean, you could take – I could give you 4 or 5 really talented guys who had all those traits and put them on the field and had them throw and work out. And I could put Casey Clausen in that same workout. And if you're going off traits, you're taking Clausen last because he's not going to throw it as pretty as everybody else.
Nope.
Nobody knew that he was going to have the mettle and the makeup that he has. That's the crapshoot of it. I mean, Tennessee liked him as a competitor. They thought he was smart. The reality is he knew how to play the game with the physical skills that he had to work with. Some of these other guys with all these big arms and all the physical traits don't know how to play the game mentally that way. It's hard. It's a hard science. It's different now because everybody knows the financial investment you're making and taking a chance on one of these guys. That's where it's like the NFL. And I'm not picking on your Bears, Grant, but that's where it's like the NFL. And you're trying to see, like, I'm going to put all this money in this guy and he's going to be our future. And if it hits, bam, you're playing for titles and championships. If it doesn't hit, then you're in the cycle that the Cleveland Browns have been in since Bernie Kosar played.
I mean, the NFL has an advantage there because they have rookie contracts, and you get a rookie quarterback, and you try to build talent around him because you're not having to pay very much for him. That second contract, if he is the guy and he's a franchise guy, is when it turns into a struggle for your just the amount you have to pay him and taking that money away from other spots on the roster. I think you can be critical of Heupel for Nico if you were critical about Nico at the time that he committed to Tennessee, because there weren't any critics then. There weren't any critics this time a year ago after he made Chattanooga look like 7-on-7 in that first game, and they the way they played against NC State and going to Oklahoma and winning, it can change very quickly. So I don't know if it's fair to criticize that or question the amount of money or all the resources they were putting into that, because you're trying to find that quarterback to be your face of the program, your franchise guy.
It's the money. That's all. That if this was the old days, no one would be batting an eye. But it's the money that draws attention to it all. I mean, look at Riley. Like Riley Ferguson and Josh Dobbs are the perfect example. Ferguson, quick release, threw it pretty, had everything you're looking for, but it just didn't match up, right? And he went on to Memphis and was decent down there. But Josh Dobbs, unbelievable career here. Didn't throw it pretty, but just made plays and is still hanging around the NFL a decade later. So I mean, it's not an exact science at any position, especially quarterback.
I'll pose the question. My buddy texted me Sunday morning after watching Joey. Would it not be wise for some schools to just put all your resources in the rest of the roster and trying to build up the talent level, and then trying to find a guy that can make it work at quarterback, not somebody that doesn't know how to play, but maybe a more value pick at that position?
I think the quarterback position in college football is, because of kind of where it is this year and what's happened with Nico's class, I do think it creates, for GMs or decision makers, I think it creates an interesting dilemma on what is the best route to go. Like, how do you go about, are you better off putting a bunch of investment and taking a chance on a guy, becoming the guy and being an all-world player? Do you feel better investing a little bit less into someone that you think can be a good player with the idea of maybe you have to hit the portal there? I don't think you want to do the portal every year for a quarterback.
Right.
I don't think you want to be in that cycle. But I do think when you're trying to manage your money, I do think the more guys struggle, the high school guys struggle, that you have put big money in, the more that question that your friend asked on Sunday morning, Grant, becomes a viable question to college football people, decision makers around the world in the sport.
SWUVol, can you give us a short tidbit about the following former players that don't get talked about much anymore? It can be a short recruiting story or memory from a game or even practice. And do any of these guys ever come back to campus? The list: Mark Jones, Carl Pickens, Julian Battle, Mose Phillips, and Justin Harrell.
Well, Mark Jones was on campus this past summer, right, AP? He was here for a camp with his kid.
That's right. Getting old.
What did he do at Miami? I always connect him to that win at Miami, whatever year that was, 2003. Didn't he do something? He had like a reverse or
that was Derek Tinsley.
Was it?
Yeah, that was
Tinsley scored on the fourth down and goal.
That was a Mark Jones team, though, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Mark Jones, who recovered the muff punt?
I don't know.
That's a great question.
Maybe that was Tinsley as well. I remember that being the Tinsley game, like the high water mark of the Tinsley era. For Mark was a really good athlete. He was a little bit undersized. He could have played either side of the ball. He would have been a great slot receiver in a spread system. I mean, he would have been a really good receiver, I think, in Josh Heupel's system. Super nice guy, great family, great to deal with. Tennessee at that point in time wasn't going to Pennsylvania and getting a lot of guys. So his recruiting story was, wait a minute, Tennessee's going to get a guy from Pennsylvania? When's the last time they had a guy from Pennsylvania on their roster? That was kind of the recruiting story of Mark Jones. I did not cover Carl Pickens' recruitment. My memory of Carl Pickens is they had to move him to defense, and he led a bad defensive team with interceptions, playing about half the year on defense. And he was dude with the dude, right? He had was that the Sports Illustrated deal after the 90 Notre Dame game where he said old Phil kept throwing it across the middle on the ball, and they had the interception with Andy Kelly late, kept throwing the same play over the middle, some quote like that in the Sports Illustrated article that got everybody fired up. One of the best athletes to ever play. He is at every Tennessee game, hangs out in Donde Plowman's box for every home Tennessee game. Carl Pickens does.
Plays a lot of golf.
Julian Battle. I'll tell my Julian Battle story right quick. It's the only guy I've covered that signed 2 national letters on signing day. So he signs with NC State. I'm going to do TV at Channel 8 to do a recruiting special. On my way, I get a phone call that says, hey, Julian Battle's that thing's not dead yet. I said, well, he signed with NC State. They said, no, Mom did not sign the paper. So the national letter is not validated at this point because Mom's signature is not on it. Mom was in Florida. Julian was on the West Coast in California. Clausen family was involved in helping in that recruitment. And late in the afternoon, Julian decided he messed up. He didn't want to go to NC State. He wanted to go to Tennessee. Because Mom hadn't signed it, he never had to get out of his national letter because it was never valid. So he ended up signing 2 national letter of intents on signing day. Only one of them worked because it had Mom's signature, and that was the one to Tennessee.
And a young AP who is just in college, just graduated high school, just early in college, watched Brent Hubbs go on WVLT with Rick Russo and break that news that night. And I was like, whoa. And it led to me doing this now. It's all you, Hubbs.
I'm sorry I drug you into this rat race sometimes.
You're sorry you drug me on the team.
No, I'm not sorry about that. It's just there are days where you're like, why are we doing this? I'm just kidding. It's a great profession. Recruiting has obviously dramatically changed from then in terms of how you cover it. Mose Phillips never dealt with him. He's been back around, never really covered him, didn't cover his recruitment. The question, Grant Ramey, Mose Phillips, in the downpour or the wasted run at South Carolina for Mose Phillips? What's the highlight?
For my age, the only Mose Phillips highlight that I know about is in the downpour and him looking at his watch, looking at his wrist. That was the coolest celebration to me.
The coolest celebration, no doubt. The better play was the one at South Carolina that got wasted. And to me, one of a top 3 John Ward call. Like, it's fantastic. The description, everything, over, underneath, around, all that. Like, I mean, it's fantastic.
Mark,
go ahead.
Mark Jones, I was looking up that Miami game. He hit the quarterback and Jabrell Wilson intercepted a pass that was kind of deflected because Mark Jones was
Brock Berlin, baby.
Brock Berlin. And then it was Sean Taylor, of all people, that fumbled that punt with 1:55 left to recover. That was the first time they had lost since 99 at home, and the first time they didn't score a touchdown at home since 84. So almost 20 years.
And the last road game I missed.
And for all of my complaining and belly aching about the Rose Bowl, I've never been more disappointed than I was to go into the Orange Bowl. That place was done by the time Tennessee went and played a game. Nothing should have been played in the Orange Bowl at that point. It had seen maybe a half a coat of paint on it. It was absolutely I'm like, this is the Orange Bowl? Because, I mean, that's for me as a kid growing up. It's
football royalty.
You know, it's national title games. The Dolphins are playing in there. And I'm like, this is it? Okay. I mean, it was something that I was not expecting. Justin Harrell, right quick. Recruitment was pretty low key. Not a lot of drama. Not a lot there. My Justin Harrell best memory is he tore that bicep tendon AP and said, "To heck with it, strap me up. I'm gonna give him one more." And he did everything he could in that Florida game and his final appearance in a Tennessee uniform that year. Tough guy who really, really, really loved Tennessee. Still does.
Yeah. That's when Tennessee used to get guys out of Martin, Tennessee.
Fair point.
All right, moving on. Where do you see this team having its biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2?
Well, it's different level of competition, so it's going to be hard to judge for me.
Yeah,
I want to say they will stop the run better this week.
Yeah, but I don't know that's improvement. I do think their communication. I do think they'll be better in their communication in the back end. I think they had some miscommunication in zone coverage. I think they'll be better and clean up some of that stuff. And that should be a goal for them. Is they've got to clean up some of the communication, self-inflicted wounds that they had. I think linebacker wise, they probably got out of gap a couple times, overran some stuff, which didn't help in their run game defense. And then obviously they had some struggles in zone coverage, not just a 4th and 10 play, but they gave up too many 15-yard plus plays in the passing game. You want to clean some of that up, particularly in the zone coverage stuff.
AkensVFL with Gibson and McCoy probably out against Georgia. Who are the next men up at corner if something were to happen to Colton Hood and Ty Redmond?
It would be Jalen Murray would be corner number 3. William Wright would be corner number 4. And then Dylan Lewis and Tim Merritt would be corners, basically after that.
What caused Syracuse to have success in the second half? Was it defensive tackle depth affecting the run game, or was it in the secondary or 3rd and 4th downs? Brent, I think you just kind of touched on this a little bit, lack of communication at times. And I do think, they got ran all over there, beginning of the 4th quarter, specifically on that 88-yard drive.
Well, I think that they got a little wore out. Bryce Neeson at 60 snaps and Dominic Bailey at 66 is too many. I think they missed Arion Carter in the second half and defending the run a bit as well. I don't think they played with the edge they needed to play with. I think they kind of lost their stinger, so to speak, after that interception to start the 3rd quarter. I think it was a combination of all those things. Now, Boo Carter makes a sack on a point-blank sack, Grant. That's 7 less points. It's 45-19. Are you feeling different? You stop 4th and 10 in the first half, which you should stop. And 48, 45-12, 45-14. It's a little bit different vibe that way. So I they weren't as bad as probably what you think at times. They weren't as good as they should have been as well, particularly in stopping the run. And I think several factors contributed into that. And one was the injuries up front.
Yeah, to me it's injuries. To me it's week 1. I'm not selling stock on that group. I don't think anything is overly concerning at this point. They have stuff to clean up like everybody does in week 1, and I think you'll be okay there. It's just something that's going to take time to clean up the stuff that you guys are talking about.
Rocky Top Mojo, is it easier or more challenging for a team to secure a top 10 recruiting class today compared to before the implementation of NIL? It appears that the introduction to NIL has led to an increase in parity, making it more difficult for teams to assemble top 10 classes as the stars are more evenly distributed.
I do think there's probably a little more distribution. I don't know if it's harder or less hard to assemble a top 10 class overall, because the teams that have been recruiting well are still recruiting well. But I do think you see more players take chances on schools. And it probably started with Travis Hunter deciding to go to Jacksonville State. But, you've seen more and more of that. You look at the 5-star QB last year that went, committed to Oregon, flipped to Cal, and now he's starting for the Bears. And you just see more things like that now than you did 5 years ago.
Rowdy Vol, with missing on Hyder and the Baylor running back trending away from Tennessee, does a move at running back coach need to be made?
No, that's silly. And David Gabriel Georges is not trending away from Tennessee. Exclamation point. Like, he has flat told Chad Simmons and others that Tennessee is recruiting him the hardest, is got great ties in Knoxville. He obviously has Gabe Osinda coming. He knows Joakim Dotson. He knows several players at Tennessee. So I would never say that he's trending away from Tennessee as of right now. In fact, I would tell Tennessee the team to beat for David Gabriel Georges, as we said here in early September.
Brandon_SV's got a couple of questions on the SEC 3 permanent rivals. How do you think they're going to gauge the maintaining competitive balance? He said over the last 5 years, Auburn has one of the worst conference records, worse than South Carolina and Missouri. However, Auburn is included in the teams too tough to have too many talk. If you go back 10 years, Tennessee would definitely drop significantly, and there's probably 30 more definitions of competitive teams. Also, another question, I think this is a really good one. Do you think they're ever going to rebalance it when some teams improve or decline, 10-year evaluations, realignment, 3.0, etc.?
I'll take the second question. Realignment and rebalancing of it's going to come when expansion continues. And at some point, the SEC will add a couple more teams, and then you'll reshuffle that. Now, is that in the short term? Is that 5 years from now? Is that 2 years from now? 10 years from now? I don't know. But I think you're going to see a bigger SEC conference at some point. That's when you'll see some sort of tweaking and some sort of rebalancing of it. Grant, I don't know how in the world you figure out what competitive balance is, right? I don't have a clue.
No, and I don't know how they go about figuring it out. And like the second question, you're not setting this up for the next 50 years, and this is not going to be changed ever. I mean, we didn't, the game was drastically different 5 years ago than it was sitting here today. So who knows what it looks like and what the SEC or other conferences look like 5 years from now. I think from that competitive balance, you kind of got to look and see what teams traditionally are, not just the last 5 years or just the last 10 years, but who Alabama has pretty consistently been, or an Auburn, or a Texas, or a Florida, or a Tennessee, compared to a Vanderbilt, a Kentucky, maybe even a South Carolina, those type of teams, and try to figure it out from there. But they're going to talk about competitive balance, and they're going to try to make it make these rivalries the best they can. But there's going to be a lot of complaining and a lot of splitting hairs and a lot of everybody dissecting this. And I don't know if there's any good way to do it because it is such a tough thing to try to accomplish.
The A-Dog. Some schools like LSU, USC, Ohio State have honorary jersey numbers awarded annually. Is that something Tennessee will ever look at? I could see giving 27 to a defensive captain, for example. AP, kind of like number 1 to a running back at Bearden High School, or not necessarily a running back, but just kind of like that dog, that senior leader at Bearden.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that would probably be more of a coach thing. It would have to start that. I don't know. I don't think Josh is necessarily starting that, because kids care too much about numbers and blaming their own numbers and making their number and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I love Al. I mean, we all love Al. That those of us that know him and got to cover him. The 18-year-old on the roster doesn't know they don't know Al. I mean, they see highlights and maybe they've met him when he was in the team, but it's not like they grew up, fondly of that. So I mean, I think if you do those things, a lot of those are done for different reasons, not just because it was some, quote, great player. There's some kind of other deal involved in that. But I don't, with the kids and the number thing being what it is for kids today, I would be surprised if we ever saw something like that.
Yeah, let's remember these guys change numbers literally every single year. It's so frustrating.
Well, they make request. I mean, they make number requests every year, right, AP? I mean, how many guys are on this roster right now hoping they get their number that they want next spring when somebody leaves?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like a Deshaun Bishop, he was going to move to number 8 because that's what he wore in high school and that's what he always wanted. And then told me that he just kept seeing the number 18 everywhere he went. And he was like, I think I'm supposed to stay in 18. And so he basically turned down the chance to go to number 8.
Also, how about that guy earlier in the week saying, yeah, I'm not wearing gloves this year. I feel like I can catch it better. I can feel the ball better. I'm not here to look good. I'm here to play ball. Like, it's just old school mentality. Not AP, I know, I mean, all of us really, we've watched that kid grow up. And not saying that he wasn't like this in high school, but I mean, it's just,
he was
really
like
cool.
In high school. He was. It's easy to say. He was not like that in high school.
Okay, well, I was being he was not like this in high school. It's been really, really cool to see him grow up and have some success, man. But it is kind of weird seeing him out there with no gloves on. I mean, not many running backs in the country are doing that right now.
Well, he totally changed his persona. I mean, we taped Beyond the Orange with him, and he talks about, like, he made a great testimony about getting saved and giving his life to Jesus, and he like just his whole attitude changed. I mean, he in high school, he was just kind of an angry kid.
Yeah.
And now he walks around with a big smile on his face.
Carnes is Carnes.
He's engaging everybody. Braylon Staley told me that Deshaun Bishop's had more impact on him than anybody on the team. And he goes, and he used to be really quiet, and now he's not. And I'm like, well, you're noticing it because that's very true. Like it's like totally, like it's like a new layer. It's like the like the deer that sheds the antlers, like he shedded the antlers, and who knew?
Yeah. It's cool to see. Cool to see. Root for that kid's success.
I didn't like that comparison.
No, I was that's not the one I had on my bingo card. Shedding antlers was not where I was going in the maturity and development of college football.
Sheds the skin or whatever. Like
I got you. I'm with you. I wasn't expecting that one. You never know. You never know what you're going to hear on this podcast, right?
Need some of that. Mark McGuire, who was at Barry Bonds, using antler spray back in the day, or was that football? Was that like a Ray Lewis thing?
Alabama had the deer spray, supposedly. You
Couple more here.
You can use some horse liniment to heal some wounds. I've done that on this farm before.
If you put a horsehair in stagnant water, it becomes a snake.
Thanks, Johnny Paul.
If you ride a horse east to west.
Black horse, rider in white.
Eric's like, I don't want to have this. We're moving on.
All right, was it a
white horse or rider in black?
That's right. White horse, rider in black.
Okay. I had it backwards. Keep going.
Bud Fox. Thank you, Grant. Bud Fox, which year do you consider Heupel's best year at Tennessee in retrospect, 2022 or 2024? Said, I personally cannot believe a team with Nico as the starting quarterback went to the college football playoff and beat two hated rivals.
The one that will be beloved will be 22 because it was Tennessee's burst back onto the scene.
They would have been ranked higher in the CFP expanded playoffs as well.
Right. Well, in 2022, I mean, they end the streak against Alabama. They beat Florida. I mean, like that was the
one at LSU.
That was your put your stamp on it deal. Now, the 24 team, what you're learning about the 24 team is that defense never got the credit they deserved last year because that was a defensive team that got them to the college football playoff. And, every time they gave up a conversion, somebody should have been fired when the reality is that defense was really good last year. Other than giving up too many third down conversions in the second half against Georgia, they were really good defensively. That's why they were in the CFP last year. And they got a little late help at Florida with Ole Miss.
Vulcan wants to know, what statement did you make at the end of spring practice or at the end of last season that you now doubt or just like, nah, that wasn't remotely true?
It's going to be really hard to replace 4 starters on the offensive line.
Yeah, Austin can't take claim. Austin can't say that one because
I know. I listened to Austin all offseason saying that offensive line is going to be really good. They were really good on week 1, but still sitting there in December in Columbus, I was still thinking it's going to be tough to replace all these guys.
Yeah, I've made too many comments to remember anything. So.
Mine would be Nico.
I'm wrong about something.
At the end of last year would be Nico related, about him taking a massive step and getting that other gear that we all know he's capable of, but obviously he left after spring, so that's definitely not true now at Tennessee. Anybody else?
Nah, I'm with Austin. I don't remember everything I said. I mean, there was probably some stuff about Joey Aguilar and could they really get a guy ready in that shorter period of time. I don't know.
I think you're talking about giving everybody on staff raises, stuff like that.
Yeah, probably
our staff, not the Tennessee staff.
Well, they don't give the Tennessee staff raises, apparently. They can't get new contracts.
That's where Volquest is different.
We get raises? It's news to me.
All right, we'll do this one as the last one. There's a lot of good ones here. Sorry I didn't get to more. Zjsvols, anything specific from game 1 that stood out to you as new from an offensive perspective that you liked? And is Jesse Perry on pace to be one of the most all-time – one game, I love this though – all-time underrated recruits already? What a performance on late notice at right tackle. He was phenomenal in game 1. That's awesome. We've already documented how great of a story that is. I'm excited to see what he looks like throughout the duration of the season. That's a good one for sure. Underrated recruit, no doubt. All-time. Let's see how his career unfolds. But in terms of wrinkles, guys, what do you like newness for Tennessee's offense?
I wanted to
do what?
I wanted to the running backs.
Yeah, I liked how they got the ball in space on the underneath stuff, because how many times have we talked about, or certainly I've written about, the struggles Tennessee's defense has had to cover the underneath stuff, either out wide or across the middle. And you look at it, opening drive, they get Mike Matthews on a little shallow cross at full speed to go make a play, and then they throw the screen to Deshaun Bishop. Those were two nice wrinkles to start. I think when you watch teams, little dump downs, little quick outs, Grant, to the tight end, swing passes to the tailback, there are a lot of defenses have a hard time covering those things. And I think that is something that is a nice wrinkle, and Tennessee should use that wrinkle more and more, given their tight end ability and given their running backs' ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time watching those clips that were circulating on the board this week, kind of breaking down the tape and talking about the differences and the wrinkles and stuff that was added, and a lot more bunch sets and not just spreading the field from sideline to sideline, and kind of switching things up. That screen specifically to Deshaun Bishop, where you're running him out to the sideline, it looks like a wheel route, and he just stops and cuts back, and he's got a wide open screen to the middle of the field, was very interesting. Just the way they attacked the middle of the field and had success doing it was interesting. Just the way they showed that. I think they talked during the offseason about evolving and trying to find new ways to have success. I think they showed in game one that, that wasn't just talking about, they were actually doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's literally just one game, and so
Right.
Let's see how it continues throughout the season. But some of this is elementary. I think I went on a tangent at one point last year. Throwing a check down to a running back, I mean, that's not rocket science. Every high school offense in the country can do that, right? And I know they weren't check downs; they were draws and screens and stuff like that. But I mean, just willingness to go away from what you've been doing for 4 years and try something different, and evolve. And Joey Halsley talked about that next evolution. As soon as the season was over last year, what can they do to be different and add a fresh coat of paint on some things. And so I like what I saw from week one. None of it is rocket science. A lot of it is so simplistic, but it's just stuff that they weren't willing to do last year. And so hopefully we'll get to see that continue on. They did a really good job with it in week one against Syracuse for sure. All right, that'll do it here for this edition of the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. Appreciate you guys sending in questions. A lot more questions we didn't get to today. Sorry about that. A lot of good questions today, so we appreciate you guys sending those in every single week here on the General's Quarters. Football season in full swing. $1 for 7 days. Your first week here at Volquest, you can get it for $1. No better time to join us than right now. Constant game week coverage happening right now. Tons of recruiting coverage. A couple of flips, 3 in the last 2.5 weeks. That's been a whole lot of fun. ETSU game coming up. We'll have constant conversation on the General's Quarters leading up to it. Coverage, preview, all that and more, reaction. All that and more on the General's Quarters and throughout the rest of football season. So come hang out. If you're watching us, listening to us, we thank you. If you're not a member of VolQuest.com, you're truly missing out. So link up with us right now. $1 for your first 7 days. For Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for joining us here. This is a Thursday morning VolQuest Mailbag Podcast.